Hey there, this is Dr. Nick Good here, wishing you a very happy day here in the orchards with my good friend, Dr. Robert Cassar. And we're thanking you so much for joining us, aren't we, brother?
Thank you for coming up to our new little retreat area on the Big Island of Hawaii. We're right behind because you're wondering probably, what's this tree with all the purple fruit on it? We have an organic lychee farm here. It's on about 30 acres, and it's really, what would you say, a lot of food everywhere, and a lot of life everywhere, and a lot of sunshine and different things that really, why you've been living in Hawaii for how many years?
I've been here about 7 years. Yeah, it's so abundant here, and we want to share that abundance with you today in the form of sharing some wisdom with you, so that you can improve your life, so that you can empower yourselves. And we're talking about metamorphosis as usual. Those of you who are interested in truly transforming, being the change in the world. And so we know it's a big subject, and there's a lot to say about it. But today, we just want to talk about how the DNA is affected by the way you think.
I look at myself today, because we're all like sort of becoming our own hero, because you have such underdeveloped DNA potential that you couldn't imagine. Remember, you're only 2 strands activated, like having a car that's got 12 cylinders, let's say, or a lot of cylinders, and you only have 2 activated. Wouldn't you be sort of curious to see how it would run on maybe 2.5 cylinders or maybe 3? And what would you have to do that?
Exactly.
A lot of different upgrades, or what we call terrain modifications, that we sort of have been playing with for many years. And you've been playing with a lot of the terrain modification for this thing up here, the supercomputer. And I've been doing it for this little machine, also called the Dream Machine. Yeah, we dream this thing, and actually it does what we want to at light speed. And of course, you don't know how to do this, do you? Do it. Try it. You open your hands in and out only to dream this motion. Behind the scenes, thousands and thousands of reactions are going along, circulating your blood as I focus my eyes, as I hold my urine, as I do nothing. Because this realm we're talking about, the realm that he's talking about here, is the sort of like the invisible realm, or the mythological realm, or this realm that we maybe don't perceive as real.
That's right. Well, it's a realm of soul power, and if we're truly interested in becoming superheroes in the world and stepping up to the plate, because in our book, everyone's a hero just for showing up. Life is so bad for so many people. It's so difficult and challenging. You got to be a hero just to get out of bed in the morning.
Yeah, exactly.
So we need a little bit more than that if we're really going to be the change that we want to see in the world around us. And what we're saying is that there's an infinite potential within you, within the cellular structure. It's not just us that are saying it. Scientists are saying it all over the place. Quantum scientists, philosophers have been saying it forever. Every artist, musician, great saint, spiritual leader and spiritual warrior said the same thing. There's an infinite power within you. You have to prepare your body, that's your duty, to prepare your body to be a place where that power can reside, the power of life, the spirit of life. So we're talking about soul power coming into the DNA, coming into the cellular structure that you've prepared as beautiful, clean bioterrain. So the awareness and the attitude are the 2 fundamental factors in this equation. Very interested in the science, modern day science. What they've basically told us is that all we have to do is little micro adjustments in every single cell, and we can do it ourselves from the inside, the way we think, the way we feel. Awareness, attitude.
Think of yourself as a mythological self. You really don't know about yourself. And you've got this undeveloped DNA. And if we are smart enough to unravel it, it will show to you what you've planned for yourself in this carnation. You got to sort of realize that you came to the planet with your mind, your programs erased. Did you know how to do anything when you came to the planet? No. So what we're talking about is really really finding out, what is optimum to grow your body and your mind. Your body is the key to the mind, and the temple, of course, is to only be understood when you get the body and mind in some form of what we call equanimity. So part of the reasoning is to really understand is that your body's just like this car, like we talked about, and if you put better fuels in it, if you keep the filters clean, and also if you put the supercomputer that can run this machine more efficiently and actually collect the neural nets, as this tree behind me, as you can see, has tons of fruiting lychee on it. And this tree right now is in pretty close stage of being ripe. You can see they're nice and purple. And we have the potential to actually flower like this lychee tree does. And you can see that your DNA, think of your DNA, as we talked about before, is that it activates itself at different cycles. Down here is 6 cycles. Right here is 7 cycles. Right here is 8 cycles, 9 cycles, 10 cycles, 11 cycles, 12 and 13. And your body and your mind has a equanimity, like you were talking about, to stay in tune with this planet and this sun. And so if the sun and the planet are being stepped up, that means that everything that's living within its terrain has to be modified. So we need to understand that. And you can really understand this. This isn't mythological talk. You can look up tonight into the sky and notice that Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and all the planets are brighter than they ever have been, ever. If you look up solar cycle 24 and just look up that the sun this time around is really active because of the area of the sun that is really being activated, because the sun is living in an area of the galaxy that has supercharge. So if that's the case, terrain modified, the sun's a magnet, it sends its energy down to the planets, they get higher tuned atmospheres, which means that we living on this planet also must be in tune. And so this is very important. There's lots of different things we'll talk about.
Yeah.
Chi, internal exercise, external learning, absolute rest, and absolute power to stretch your DNA like a piano and be able to play a beautiful orchestra, not just in a few octaves, not just in 6 and 7 cycles. Okay, this is replication, sexuality, this is food, and this is sort of like a vicious cycle, as you can see. At least we want to go ahead and try to activate. This is why I wear meteorite dust here. I like to activate this area of me. And as we speak the truth and we find out our own truth, remember, it's not just parroting truth. You have to experience these truths. So there are certain levels of what we call research that everybody's going to go through. And this is your own sort of like he was talking about, your own self. You turn into your own hero because you actually get to see what you become.
That's right. And so let's finish the top one. We got the throat, and then we hear, and that's it. Fill in your mind with the vision of who you are, who you're destined to be. You see, the soul is a seed. The soul is a seed. It's planted by intelligence in the soil of what? What's the soil planted in? It's planted in the soil of life. And so the seed knows what it is. The seed knows what it is, even though it might not look like it right now.
It's got its program.
Exactly. Now, all that's happened is that you, the soul seed, you've received some conditioning and programming in a superficial layer of yourself, and you need to remove that. Reprogram it. Dissolve it, disharmonize, get rid of the disharmony, reharmonize with the spirit and nature of life within you.
The little piggy here, Miss Precious, we're feeding her superfoods. We're changing her terrain to the terrain that we know that she should go ahead and have. So she's going to turn into not just a simple pig, she's super pig, because
That's
her
right.
consciousness is going to grow.
Exactly. Well said, brother.
What are you breathing right now? You're breathing the freshest air of the world right now, really. We're on a special place now. It's taken me a long time. I mean, you came here. Part of the reason I came here is because of you guys actually telling me about the nectar of this 19.5 area that has an equal amount of north and south energy that comes into the planet So you can actually grow your physiology balanced because you're part north and part south. As you can see, Miss Piggy here, her name is My Precious, and I call her Nanu, that's her nickname. Nanu! She's on a green, blue, indigo, and violet diet, which is a high vibe terrain food source and liquid source. And you can see, she's just full of love, and she's a Russian boar, and she's not supposed to really like anybody because, well, they get 400 pounds, and they've been programmed over a lot of time to be able to fear us because of the gunshots and everything. She's such a lovable animal. She doesn't smell. I haven't washed her in 10 days. She doesn't have one bit of smell. She has green poop because she has chlorella and blue-green algae and all different types of foods that she, remember, is 85% human, or the human is 85% pig. So this is an experiment, as every day that you are living is research and an experiment. And so, oh, sweetie, she's getting foods not to be able to get certain types of creatures that only process cooked food. So we're starting her out on the right way, on the right track. And it's hard for us to go ahead and reverse our track so we could actually have a terrain like hers, because she doesn't smell for a reason. It's because she's not having the microbial feces. See, when we cook food, there's certain types of creatures that live in our intestinal tract, and they have to poop too.
They get fed, and so they shit in the.
And they have to poop too. And so, a lot of the urine that actually, or the toxicity, there's another set of creatures behind them that actually eat their poop. So, you have to be very careful on trying to kill things in your intestinal tract or trying to manipulate them. The best way to do it is to manipulate your food source and your liquid source, as we've done with Miss Piggy. She can get all the parasites that we can get. Remember, she's 85% pig, or human, okay? And or maybe we're 85% pig, because a lot of us actually sort of act like the pig instead of act like the human. See, the sun goes through magnetic repolarization on or around December. It's like clockwork. 11.2 years, every 11.2 years, the sun does a flip. Google it yourself. Google NASA, NASA, the sun does a flip. This should be on the front page of the LA Times. Not Britney Spears' new haircut or Donald Trump getting a new building. The sun does a flip, and now, as you noticed, last time the sun did a flip was what? Y2K, when they thought the electrical systems were going to go ahead and change the computer complex. Now, we're being stepped up on this planet, and once you really do the little bit of research, look up a guy's name, or just look up the Schumann resonance, and a lot of people say that's the natural heartbeat of the Earth. Well, it was at that time. 7.83 cycles. That means we had the ability at that time, if we're good, to be able to bring our energy centers up to 7.83 cycles, which was just below 8 cycles, which is this thing, the open heart. And the open heart means that the mind now is not on its own. It's got a filter of the activation. If you're only activated at the lower sector, this is 6 cycles. When you have an orgasm, if you put an ECG up to your brain, you'll see the research on this, that orgasm or reset is 6.66 cycles. Is that what 666 is? It was a breeding program? Well, let's just go up to the next. 7 cycles is when you're hungry. Woo! And then you go back down to 6 cycles and 7 cycles. And if you can actually get up to 8 cycles, that means that you've opened up the gap to be able to see that, whoa, how beautiful is everything? It's the heart chakra. The heart now gets filtered. Instead of the mind having only, let's say, the sexual or the scarcity or the survival activation, that's what your mind gets filtered first, all of its thought. And if you're hungry, what does your mind get? The filter of hunger. And if you're in the open heart, your heart filters your mind so it could actually think right. So you'll think depending on what activation, or chakras they call them, spinning wheels. One spins one way, north, the next spins another way, south. In breath, out breath. So these activations are real, and I call this the red, orange, yellow, green is the heart. It's neutral. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and you'll see violet. And so we're just a lot of tunes, and
we need to harmonize.
Yeah,
be in
exactly.
tune. Be in tune.
Yep. We have heart lobes, multiple. We have multiple minds, multiple brains. We also have multiple lungs. And so these are the three largest internal organs, and we call this the Chi equanimity training. We'll go through this with a real training session, but you can get this really easy. In order for the Chi to get activated, that's why you like meditating. You breathe through the nose. Okay? It's not breathing through the mouth. It's actually using the north and south of the positive and negative turbinates to be able to charge the pineal gland, or the activation of the mind. So this exercise is called a Chi exercise. And what it is actually exercise through your nose by keeping this shut down. And what you're going to do is you're going to train each of the organs that have a sine wave, just like the sun does, 11.2-year sine wave. And since the sun right now is going in its magnetic reversal, we need to train ourselves, all of our internal selves, to go ahead and start to work together. So you have the heart, the mind, and the lungs. And the way to train this is very simple, is walking, exercising in any form, is through the nose. And put a little coconut oil in the mouth so you can't break the vacuum. And you'll notice that you won't be able to breathe too good through your nose because it's diaphragmatic breathing. This is going to train you, it's going to train yourself to be able to really start to get aligned. The outer world can get aligned, and then you can easier go into this inner world instead of this outer world just all super, not in tune. Like you were saying, how to become harmonic is the key.
That's right.
So
the central nervous system is essentially managed by the breathing, because
Totally.
the rhythmic, deep rhythmic breathing brings up the parasympathetic side of the central nervous system, which calms us down and brings us into a natural state of equanimity. And in the world right now, we're all running around basically traumatized and terrified and in all kinds of drama and heading to the next drama, or we might just be, on a little island before the next flood or something. It's, a lot of people are stressing out. So what does that mean? Fight, flight, fright, mechanism activated, that's your breathing pattern, that's your central nervous system, all the electricity.
Yeah, and you gotta make sure, just like he's saying, see, this is not hard, it's very simple. See, your senses are controlled by your nervous system, and your reality, your reality, your realism is dictated by your nervous system activation.
That's right.
The eyes only see, the mouth only can taste and speak. It can only be activated. Remember, you don't smell anything. There are actually electronic, photonic, magnetic, we call magneticity reactions. And this machine, this instrument, as I call it, of God, and remember, God just means that it's not understandable. It's not understandable to me. And so what we have to do is give it what it needs and take away what it doesn't. You know what it needs is a lot of space. And so the space is where what he's talking about. See, if the mind is too corrupted and it's doing more when it's done doing, then it doesn't have time to actually have this rest except for at night, and that's not rest.
Well, yeah, this mind doesn't get turned off at night for most people. Most people have to numb themselves with the hypertoxicity and then sleep in some kind of comatose state where they don't even get down into deep theta or deep delta states of relaxation, and so the consciousness can't move beyond the lower astral realm.
Exactly.
But when you start cleaning yourself of your toxicity in your blood and the filth that's going through your brain and the bizarre chemicals that are distorting the movie that's playing in there, and you start practicing these breathing practices, entertaining not just bigger thoughts about how you can get bigger version of who you are in the world if you define that as success. Success isn't about that. Success is about becoming greater. a
More
greater
complete.
version of yourself, which is a very natural process of becoming more complete, more fulfilled.
More complete. Learn how to have rest. Once an hour, I try to do 2 breaths if I can, just to bring me down to the lower level. If not, my nerves, just like a battery, if you take it down to half charge and you never really depress it all the way down to 0 charge, it starts to only learn from the halfway charge to here, and it's really only at half capacity. So part of our capacity, is to really expand the gap of this sort of narrow scope of activation. And just 2 seconds, because I talked about the sine waves. Remember, the heart has a sine wave, the lungs have a sine wave, the minds have sine waves. Each lobe has all these waves. So when you do this training by putting the coconut oil, it just makes you so you can't breathe, because you're going to break a vacuum, you'll see. And it's very hard. I pull the hairs out of my nose to be able to breathe. I also expand my nostrils, okay, because you're trying to get the air in, and it's really hard to do. So the mind has to learn not to overpower the heart and the lungs, because the lungs and the heart will go ahead and make you spit out that coconut oil and try to breathe, because you couldn't get your sine waves all in equanimity, or all the waves not clashing with each other, and that's where you feel like you can't breathe. So it's the same with meditating. If you do this, the meditation will go deeper, and then when you do the meditation, this will go deeper. So each side is sort of like helping, like a pendulum. The power of the pendulum is the rest phase, and that's where this ether, any of the training we do, like the meditation, is when you breathe in and breathe out. That's exercise, that's power, but there's a rest phase, and that's where actually the ethers, like the morning when the birds sing and the evening when the birds, it's transition time. And so when I try to do my chi breathing and or even a lot of my meditation now, I'll breathe in and make sure that my breath is on the down phase longer than my up phase, and I make sure that I rest at least what my length was in my down phase at my rest phase. So I'm getting this rest here, and I can really then watch myself on the inside, and then on the outside, when you run and you do your exercise, you have to really bring yourself, don't break the vacuum, and then mix all your waves, you'll feel it. And all of a sudden you'll get supercharged, and once you do this 3 or 4 times, you'll never exercise this other way again, or do meditation, and you'll see, it grows
You mean
you.
you'll never do meditation?
No, you'll never do the meditation like you used to before, because it's the space you need on both sides. You need to do this, remember, you can't just be physical, and you can't just be, as I call, namasteers. You can't just meditate, or you can't just do nothing. There is a world here where it's like a blending of the 2 worlds, and it is hard for us to get the nectar, because there's so much junk on the side. And if we stay in some form of equanimity with the tune of the planet and the tune of the sun, that's why it's super necessary to clean your skin. You're wondering, what am I drinking? Drinking in an old Absolute vodka bottle that I use to clean my skin. I put in a solution that we do to clean the skin, so I could put coconut oil in certain things so I can absorb the new photonic rays. This is red hibiscus flower water with a couple of crystals in it. And this is the hydration like you were talking about before. What's the most common sickness on the planet is dehydration and demineralization, and eating foods that are fake. Ones that aren't real, they're chemicals. Most of the foods that you buy that are convenient are not as convenient as you think. They're loaded full of synthetics, hormones, antibiotics, different types of insecticides, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, and chemicals. So this body is a filter, and if you take your clothes off, you'll be able to see if you have the sickness. And the sickness is, a lot of it is not because you're not, let's say, fat. Those are all words. It's like being sick. Okay, like you have a virus. How about you're plugged? You're clogged. Body, your mind's clogged. Your energy centers are clogged. Your lymph system is clogged. Your pores are clogged. And so you can see Nick. Nick's not a young guy. He's over 50 years old like me. Look. Okay, I'm clean like him. And how do you get clean? By liquids. You're a liquiditarian. And a liquiditarian is a person who can actually drink a variety of different liquids. And the variety of liquids that you drink does do a magical thing to your physiology. It's a liquiditarian. It eats because of pleasure, but eat certain things that really are good for you, but until you transform your gut wall bacteria to uptake different types of fuels. Think of your cars like a 67 Camaro. So your intestinal bacteria, you really don't think so, but they control what you like to eat. They control your immune system. They control a lot of things on the way you feel. So instead of actually killing these things, like Nick was saying, these are pleomorphic bacteria. You don't kill any of your children that live inside you. Remember, it would be pure blasphemy to kill, even if you have a 10-foot giant schistosoma tapeworm, which most of us do that have eaten any flesh. Most of us have a variety of different types of creatures that live inside us. And what are you going to do about
pleomorphic.
it?
Tell them what pleomorphic
Okay,
is.
and pleomorphic, this is why it's not good to kill anything that's living within you. Your bacteria are whom you are. They can change just like your child. Let's say your child grew up in a detention camp and he only learned what he learned in that camp. He ate the foods, he had to argue all day, he had to be scarce all day long because he's living in jail. And this child can be terrain modified as the bacteria, just because it was only living in no oxygen, it was living, eating and processing certain types of dead chemicals, it had to morph and shift and do you a favor to be able to actually process this type of junk. So what happens is now you can't just change these microbes. They slowly change by the moon, and they shape-shift. They're shape-shifting reptilian microbes, and they are warm, cold-blooded, and they use this as a host. So if you kill them, you just sort of wipe out your immune system, and really by having fillings in your mouth that are made out of methyl mercury or any types of poisons that you would inhale or drink, you're washing these intestinal, very sensitive bacteria, like the bacteria that live in the grass here. If I throw anything on top that actually would kill the very delicate microbes in the soil, these plants wouldn't fruit like you see. So you can see that the body, okay, is just like anything. These pleomorphic bacteria, as long as you switch their fuel supply and liquid supply and toxicity supply and open up the lymph system, and how do you know if your lymph system's plugged? Take your clothes off in the mirror, and if you can't see through your skin because it's only 7 layers thick and it's not transparent, it means that you're clogged in those areas. The pores are clogged. There's millions of pores, and we have different types of techniques that are very easy to unplug yourself. And so the pleomorphic bacteria are what we call very genius beings, and there's some in your intestinal tract that are what you call white lights or bacteria that are called aerobic. They live in oxygen, and there's other bacteria that live what we call the dark lords or the dark bacteria, and they live, yeast, mold, and fungus, they live with no oxygen. So if you eat food that's dead, it has zero oxygen and zero capability of actually letting itself get processed. So these bacteria do you a favor. So when you're eating a lot of cooked food, what happens is you get a lot of black mold and a lot of very high level and incestuous feeding black mold anaerobic microbes. So eating these different types of foods that are more aerobic, you'll get a lot of indigestion just because the aerobic microbes now are getting fuel. They're getting miracle grow to grow back because you're feeding them the correct things to make them grow. These liquids, the certain non-genetically modified foods. I don't eat genetically modified foods, and I'm not bagging on any companies. It's just because every time I do, it severely hurts my stomach. All wheat, corn, and soy. I found out all the patients that I've ever got off it, they find out themselves. If they stay off wheat, corn, and soy for 3 months and try to go back on it, their stomach is a knot. They've got gas. They've got a lot of problems that they had previously that they sort of just lived with every day and thought was normal. So these pleomorphic bacteria, what you do is you stop feeding the dark bacteria, and then they're just hungry, and what they do is they come to the side of the fence. Is why? Because they have no other choice. As we're being terrain modified, we are being terrain modified with the sun, and it's so powerful when it comes out here. We're right in the middle of the ocean, 3,000 miles out, and we're in a very special spot here. We're on the Hamakua coast where all the waterfalls are, and right here we're about 600 feet at sea level. But in actuality, on the Big Island, we're at about 30,000 feet because the ocean goes down. This is the tallest mountain in the world. So the energy here is massive. And so if you stay in line with this energy, you grow unimaginably. And if you don't, all you have to do is really go to Hilo and push a cart around Walmart, or go to Kona and push a cart around Costco, and just look at the people, and you'll see that the herd is very sick.
I think this is a really important point to make as well, that the energies that are coming into creation right now, they're not just bombarding us from out there, they're surging up from within the soul as well, because this whole vast unknowable mystery of life is so precisely engineered. It's just so precisely, meticulously engineered. So the change is coming from within us as well. And so here we are in a very supportive environment for our transformation, and we are aligning ourselves harmoniously with the energies that are coming in. But if you don't, then your lives are trashed. It's not just your physical health that's going to go to ruins. Your relationships are disharmonious.
Your business, your everything.
Everything. Your psyche, you are, experiencing insanity, anxiety, neurosis, all of these things. This is a plague. This is epidemic plague proportions.
It's a neurosis of the planet.
In modern civilizations.
Can I just add one quick thing?
Yeah.
Okay, look, you got to really understand, if you're confused at this time, it's good. Okay, look, if you see the world as a little bit insane, you're getting some of your sanity back. And the more you see things around you that aren't correct, it just means that you're awakening. And when you do, the best thing you can do is tell the best kept secret in town, because 10 years ago, look at us. 10 years before then. Remember, when you're 20, you think you know it all. When you're 30, you go, even I know even more. When you're 40, you get a little humble. 50, and we start to actually be in this realm. The more you know, the less you know, and that's when you know you're on the right track. And there are no authorities in any of the realms that we know. We're just students at all different levels, and we're really like we're in school. We're in 10th grade. We're in high school, and we don't really play dodgeball with the third graders anymore, do we? Okay? We like to once in a while, but you see, they got a lot of work to do. Everybody's growing now, no matter what, though. But see, a lot of the nectar that we can share with you are what we call the 7th graders, 6th graders, 7th graders, and 8th graders, because they know junior high is a very confusing and very tough adolescence growing up. And if you could jump to high school right now and not go through the valley of the shadow of, as you said, Satan. Satan's got a lot of booby traps here, and they're pretty good. Did you know that lead had lipstick in it? My mom's had about, maybe 3 gallons of that, because every woman past 50 years old has drank about 3 gallons of lipstick, and most of it, if you just look it up, just put Google lipstick and lead. Or how about the tampons? Remember, women get hit hard. By the time you're 50, you've put 5,000 tampons. In the old days, maybe they were cotton and so forth, but today they're made out of synthetics, phthalates, bleaches, and a variety of different synthetics and weird stuff. Now, let's wake up. We can still do a lot of the things that we're doing. We just need, as you were saying, it's optimizing your health and wellness so you can become more complete. Does this make sense to you?
Yeah.